go ahead and forget everything you ever thought about Germans, because here's what I found they are really like. Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I am Donnie, and along with my wife Aubrey, we are two Americans currently living in Germany with our baby, sharing all of our experiences living and traveling throughout Europe. Foreign cultures are often unfortunately put into very specific boxes, and Germans are no exception to this. Foreigners think of Germans as being lovers of lederhosen, passionate about beer, fired up by soccer, excited by white sausages, and jubilant about Oktoberfest. But we moved to Germany to find out what Germans are really like, and for example, what they are really passionate about, rather than these tropes about Bavaria that are falsely applied to all of Germany. Well, except for the soccer thing. That's generally pretty true about all of Germany. So what things have we learned Germans are truly passionate about after moving to Germany? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today in my video. A lack of passion? Or just different things in fashion? I am originally from a southern state in the US called Oklahoma, and now live in the southwestern German state of Rheinland-Pfalz. Therefore, some of these things I talk about may be a little more specific to these two places. I also will obviously only be talking about a few handfuls of my personal experiences and discoveries, not every possible thing that could be talked about on this subject. Therefore, let me know all of your own personal experiences with these things in the comments below. I first came to Germany in 2014 during a study abroad program in college. I remember one of the first culture shocks that I experienced was that I felt like I was in Germany, but at the same time, I didn't really feel like I was in Germany. What I mean is, I was coming from a country where patriotism and pride in the nation is incredibly evident everywhere you look, with American flags flying, the national anthem being played at all sporting events, saying the Pledge of Allegiance before school, and therefore, when you're in the US, you really know you are in the US. But in Germany, there was none of this. As I looked for visual representations that I was in a different country, for example, primarily in simply seeing the German flag flying, I couldn't find it. I remember going back to the States and telling everybody how I learned that Germans don't really have a strong sense of patriotism and don't really have a lot of pride in their country itself, or at least don't have it on display. In fact, I might even go as far as to say that it seemed almost like there was pride in not taking a strong pride in their nation. This has also seemed to become one of America's favorite fun facts about Germany, as they describe how since World War II, where there was an overabundance of patriotism in the Third Reich, that today most Germans don't feel comfortable displaying the same level of patriotism in the new Bundesrepublik. However, after we later moved to Germany, and in the 4.5 years that we have lived here, I think I've discovered a little secret to the pride Germans feel about where they come from, and that is, generally in Germany, there is often actually a much stronger sense of local pride rather than national pride per se. And all this also is outside of World Cup time. Bavaria is a great example of this. For example, in Bavaria, you will find Bavarian flags everywhere you look, or even more localized pride in where one comes from than just general Bavaria. You don't ever want to make the mistake of calling a Franconian a Bavarian, despite Franconia being found inside the borders of Bavaria. Or in our region, the Pfalz. Pride in the wine culture, and specifically Weinschorle being drunk out of a regional glass called a Dubeglas, can be found being worn proudly on shirts, on jewelry, used as lighting fixtures or other home decor, or some even going as far as getting it tattooed on their skin. This can also be found in the pride in the local brewery, or how when you travel from region to region or city to city, you are expected to drink the local brew. For example, only drinking a Kulsch in Dusseldorf or an Altbier in Cologne. If you want an example of local pride and rivalries, go ahead and read the comments reacting to what I just said. Overall, I seem to have found that Germans don't necessarily lack pride in where they come from. They just don't share that pride with a nation, but reserve it more so for local regional pride, generally speaking. Before moving to Germany, I had no idea just how outdoorsy Germans generally tend to be. We've talked before in our videos about the limited right to roam we enjoy in Germany, where there are hiking and walking paths zigzagging all over Germany and across the countryside that Germans regularly enjoy. Or where we expected to find high European fashion when we moved to Europe, we were instead surprised to find the mark of a true German is the outdoor clothing brand Jack wolfskin. Where we once thought a stereotypical German will have a beer in hand, now we know they actually have Nordic hiking poles in hand. And actually, these are the perfect representation of the culture shock we had about the passion Germans have for hiking. When we first moved here, we would see a few people walking our town streets using hiking poles, and since we had only ever seen them when people were hiking mountains in, say, Colorado, we thought they looked a little out of place on our city's perfectly smooth, flat, and paved streets. But then we started noticing more and more Germans using them in situations we never would have thought someone would need hiking poles, and also young people were using them where we thought maybe it was just an elderly thing to use them so they could keep their balance while walking. I have now learned they supposedly have much greater health benefits and uses. Nordic hiking poles are to keep you upright and take pressure off your joints. They also engage more of your body's muscles than walking rather than just your legs, as they also engage the upper body, which is supposed to provide more calorie burning benefits. So with Germans stereotypically loving efficiency, it only makes sense that they would love using something that can take your normal low calorie burning walk and turn it into a full body efficient calorie burning exercise. Speaking of Germans' love for nature and hiking, I think you all would be excited about what my friends over at Planet Wild are doing. Planet Wild is a nature protection organization funding ecosystem restoration projects to preserve our nature and wildlife. Stick around to the end of the video to find out how you can get involved and see what they are doing. This next thing Germans are passionate about initially surprised me for two different reasons. One, because I stereotype Germans as being very orderly and strict. I assume this next thing wouldn't be the way that it is, as it seems like it would lead to disorder, at least based off of my experience in the US. And two, once I saw why it is the way that it is, it made total sense to me why Germans do this and still maintains order. And that is, dogs are everywhere in Germany. On trains, in stores, in restaurants, in cafes. If humans are there, generally, there will also be dogs there. In the US, what I am more used to is dogs staying at homes or in parks, and then only service dogs being allowed where humans go. However, one thing we have definitely learned since moving to Germany is that Germans are dog lovers, and one of the reasons why it seems to be the case that dogs in Germany are more prevalent in society is because, generally speaking, Germans seem to be very passionate about training their dogs. Typically, we'll go, for example, to a coffee shop, someone will come in with their dog, and the dog will perfectly lay under the table or sit by the side of the owner and not make a sound. I've also been amazed at how often I'm walking around a busy city and Germans are walking around with their dogs off a leash as they perfectly follow their human without straying off course or getting distracted and taking off. In the US, I would say, again, very generally speaking, you will always find dogs on leashes, and not only that, they will be pulling their owners all over the sidewalk as they try and pave their own way. Besides that, dogs in the US just don't generally seem to have the training and discipline that German dogs do to be able to go to all these public spaces and be expected to not be a distraction or annoyance. Again, you obviously will find very well-trained dogs in the US, and in Germany, I have seen, for example, one dog actually attack his owner on a train one day. But as a general theme, Germany has been surprisingly much more dog-friendly than I expected, and the dogs are much better trained than in the US. However, I will say that the dog owners in Germany could use some more training and being more passionate about picking up poop after their dogs. If you ask any American what they think of when they think of traveling in Europe, or specifically in Germany, one thing they are bound to mention are the amazing bakeries. After we moved to Germany, we immediately became obsessed with going to our local family-run bakery and trying all the assorted baked goods, in particular, the bread. Germans are particularly and rightfully proud of and passionate for their bread. In fact, we have made an entire video on the subject of German bread where we even visited the German Bread Museum in Ulm. But let's stop for a second because I want to ask you a question. When I say the word bread, what image pops in your mind? If you're German, you may have had a bit of a mouth-watering montage of various breads play through your head. But if you're American, you probably thought of... So just how proud of their bread are Germans? Well, I actually almost started a war in the comments of one video where I asked you guys if the French or Germans make better bread, for one. Two, Germany has a German Bread Institute that has an official registry of all the different types of breads in Germany, which has over 3,000 types of bread registered. Three, UNESCO added Germany's bread culture to its intangible cultural heritage list. Four, they have TV shows dedicated to the worship of a depressed loaf of bread. And five, this is not even considered bread in Germany. So the word for bread in German is Brot, but this is called toast. Well, to be fair, the full name of this is Toastbrot or toast bread, but because it really isn't considered true bread in Germany, it is often just referred to as toast. That's right, in Germany, even when it has not even been near a toaster, it is still called toast. Whereas in the US, for this bread to be called toast, it has to first be, wait for it, toasted. So what's this all about? Why don't Germans just refer to this type of bread as, well, bread? Well, to a German, all this soft, squishy bread is good for is making toast. And as a German explains in a forum I found online, if you did not want to toast it, you would buy proper bread. So for our German audience now, I do have a question for you. Do you fit the stereotype that when you leave the country, the number one thing you miss is German bread? Something every foreigner in Germany always initially is shocked by is the passion Germans feel for waste management and the German trash system. In fact, Germans are so passionate about trash separation. When we first moved here, we were given a 33-page guidebook to the German trash system. And for when we have family or friends coming to visit, we have added labels to all of our various trash cans, and we give a mini orientation to them, all just so they know how to throw something away. Typically, we'll spend the week or two they are visiting consulting them every time they have to throw something away, and often the general progression of things goes from laughter and astonishment when they first arrive to frustration by the end of the trip because they can't ever simply throw something out with having to ask how to do it. Or sometimes we'll even just find mini piles of trash that they want us to sort for them and fear that they might mess it up if they did it themselves. Now, this is usually when some German viewers like to make jokes about how they can't believe that Americans don't know how to recycle, and to some extent, yes, depending on where our American friends or family are coming from, we do have those that really never have been confronted with any recycling of any sort, just like we hadn't whenever we moved here. But we also have others where in their part of the country, they do have recycling. In fact, when we were just in Washington State visiting family, most homes had tiny Restmüll trash cans, but huge recycling trash bins, and then separate buckets for glass, jars, and bottles that were picked up at their home. So it isn't that recycling isn't done in the US, but in many ways, it's just that Germans do it so different that it can be hard to learn. Because of your guys' passion for the environment and animals, I'm really excited to introduce you to Planet Wild. Monthly, Planet Wild goes on a new mission to preserve our nature and wildlife, and then they document it on their YouTube channel. As a community member, you and I get to vote on their next mission and be part of Planet Wild's global community that restores nature and increases biodiversity, thus unleashing a much needed systematic change. This month, they're protecting turtles under threat from poachers by sending unexpected help, a dog patrol. What I love about them is that as a supporter, you get to see your impact firsthand via YouTube and the Planet Wild app, so you aren't left wondering what your money was spent on. Make a difference by using our code in the first month of subscription. For the first 200 subscribers will be covered for you. Just scan this QR code or click the link in the description. To see who made it this far into the video, the random question of the week is, do straws have 2 holes or 1 hole? Thanks so much for watching, guys. Be sure to hit those like and subscribe buttons, and I will see you in our next video.